All right. Hello, everyone who is listening, and welcome to the first installment on how to color comics. Hold on, I gotta check to make sure that this is coming through all right. And yeah, not a strong start here. You have to excuse me, this is my first time doing this. So, um, yeah. All right, looks like it's coming through all right. Okay, so it looks like everything's going good. All right, so what we're going to do is that we are going to color this today. Looks like it's a little laggy, but I think we can make do with that. And also my cursor on the feed is a little wacky. I don't know why. I've been trying to figure that out, but all right, so we're using Photoshop CS6. I spent last night finishing up this drawing here. It's the main character to the new comic book Sway. Hopefully I'll get moving on that soon so that you guys can see some of the pages. I'm pretty excited about this one. It's my own creation. I am writing and illustrating this. All right, so what I have here is I have several layers that I work with, and here's the line drawing. I'll take that off and put it back on over my rough sketches, and my rough sketches here are covered by a screen filter of a blue layer because it's always better to line over the blue than it is the black, so you can make sure what you are doing. And you can see that I did a rough sketch and then a rough sketch and then a rough sketch. So this is where I started, and then I just built up and threw the blue over it, and then I did my line work. Up here we have let's get switched that real quick. Okay, up here is my color palette that I will be using. I won't be using all these colors, but it's always good to have a layer with your palette. Some people use the templates or the swatches is what they call them in here. Up here, I don't use those. I kind of wing it, I guess you could say. All right, so we will begin. If you're using a tablet or a Cintiq, make sure that on your stylus you set one of the macro buttons to Alt, because Alt is, I'll show you what this will do. I'm going to try to make this as basic as I can so any of you who are just beginners can follow through. I consider myself just kind of in between beginner and intermediate. I'm not that good, but I'm good enough to pull off some pretty tricky stuff. So, all right. All right, so I'll show you what the Alt button does. The Alt button brings up the teardropper there. You can see it through that big block. I don't know why it is coming through like that, but all right, so it allows you to select any color you hover over. So we'll just grab the red. See, there we go. Go over to the green, do that. Bam. See, it's better than having to go through this color and having to pick it every time that you want to choose it. So, yeah. I'll just get rid of this here real quick. And all right, hold on. I'm gonna try to make this quick because I've got people talking, and I've got 2 screens up here, so this should be good. All right, so Chris asks how we got the blue over it. All right, so excuse me. If you look at your layers here, and what you're going to do is, I have this blue layer down here. All right. Let's select that layer. It's just a normal layer. I'll show you how to make this from scratch. So that's a blue layer. Let's take off the line work that I traced it over. That is it right there. So what I did was, we'll take that off. Here's my sketch. You go to new layer down here. Yeah, click on it. You got a new layer. All right. And you can either get your gradient tool or your bucket. I do the bucket because it's a little bit quicker. Select the blue. You don't want to go with a light blue, and you don't want to go with a too dark a blue, or else it'll look like it's just a little bit more blue hue than a black. So we go here, and if I'm going too fast for you guys, let me know. And then you fill it in like that. All right, and then over here above your layers, you're going to see this drop-down menu of all the filters that the layers you can, or that you can adjust on your layer. And we go to screen. You just click on that, and we'll screen it, and so that it covers your black. The opacity, or the transparency here, you will adjust it. If it's too blue, you can adjust it down to a black, or you know, you just go up the ladder there. So that's how I did that. Some people do it blue. I'll show you how to do it red. And it's just the same thing. You know, let's put back to normal. So you just have the layer, you fill it in with red. Here, there's red. And we go to screen. And now your drawing will be red. And then from there, if you don't know how to trace over, I'll show you real quick. Make a new layer right over that red one. And you go to the black. You select the brush that you would like. And when I am inking the drawings, I don't normally ink them in Photoshop. I use Manga Studio. But you can do it here too. It's just as easy. And you select your size of your brush. All right, and then we're going to zoom in on the drawing here. All right, let's just do a quick thing here. I like Manga Studio better because you can rotate your canvas so you're not bending all over the place with your arm. And all right, so I got a soft brush here. There's no hardness on it. It's just the standard brush that comes with Photoshop. And then you just, no, it's a little too thick. And that one's not pressure sensitive. I just got Photoshop CS6, and I normally use CS3. It's least likely to crash out of the entire series. And I thought I'd give this a try. And yeah, that one's a little better. But they gave you all these new brushes, which are pretty neat. Haven't experimented much with them, so today will be a little interesting. Let's see here. Let's go with, those are pens. This is a pencil here. That one's a little square. Let's try a brush. Let's just, oh, there's a standard brush, I hope. Yeah, there we go. That's a good one. All right, so, and then you just ink over the entire drawing. Now, my sketches are pretty rough, and I do all my fine work in the inking process. I don't take too much time on my sketches, but you just see what I'm doing here. You just go over it, and you ink out the entire drawing. I'm just doing a quick little pass here so you guys can see what I'm doing. And you'll spend hours and hours inking your drawing until you got it all the way done. And then you color it. So that's how you do that. It's I almost like this more than traditional inking on paper and with pen and ink and quill pens and stuff. So let me know if I'm losing you guys. I can redo that. But I'm going to erase these 2 layers. Bring back my blue. I got to put the screen filter back on that. Now, I don't use during the coloring process, I don't use any of these filters. Just so you guys know, there's really no tricks to coloring. It's very close to doing it traditionally, like you would with paints or color pencils. There are no magic buttons to make it look awesome. It's takes a lot of practice, takes a lot of observation. So don't expect to have a masterpiece the first go around that you do this. All right. Now, and another thing you will notice if you watch my videos and watch other artists' videos, everybody has their own way of coloring in Photoshop. There is no one way to do this. There's a million different paths to take. Artists get comfortable with what they're used to doing, and then they go from there. And hold on, I think I got another question. Ah, Chris says thanks. Yeah, no problem, man. I actually don't know what the term nibs is. So if you know what it is, go ahead and describe that to me. I'm very illiterate when it comes to traditional comic book work. I'm fairly young still, so when I got in the game and everybody's been doing it this way, I can do it traditionally, but the problem is I don't, because I don't have a scanner to scan in my 11 by 17 blue line sheets. So yeah, all right, so let's get this going. I'm gonna say a lot. It's my filler word. So let's zoom out here, and what I always start with is the flesh tone. Okay, so I'm going to create a folder here for all my layers beneath my inked layer. And what you do is you select your top layer, you hold down Shift, select the bottom one, and then you just drag them all up into that layer there. I'm not too keen on labeling my layers, but I will do it for this video. I'm used to working fairly quick, so yeah. And this video, just so you guys know, is going to be a mile long because I'm going to finish this up. I made my time, or I set some time aside for all of this. Ah, nibs, gotcha. Yeah, dip pens. All right, yeah. Thank you, Chris. I used to use those, but I always spilt my ink pot everywhere. I think the last time I actually used a dip pen was, or a fountain pen, was when I was like 14, and my mother hated me because I stained like the couch and the table and everything. So, all right. So what you're going to do is, when you are coloring, you never want a white background because you can never see the tone of your colors or the shades of your colors. White is the extreme side of the spectrum, and then you have black on the other side. So what you want to do is make sure that you lay down a gray layer in between your sketches and your inks. And I do that on top of my blue layer so that it looks like this. That way you can see, if you look at this color palette, see how it looks white, how they look a lot brighter? Well, you're getting an illusion that they are natural when they're not. So you want to lay down your gray, and now you can see how truly bright these things are. And I might tone those down a little bit, but make sure you always have a gray background. It's in between black and white, so you can go as far left or as far right with your tones as you need to. All right, so we're going to create a new layer over that envelope, and we will start coloring. Now, when you lay down what we call the base colors, you get a hard brush, okay? Some artists take their time and fill in the lines or their spaces so that they're not overbearing their lines, but I don't. I'll show you what I mean here. Okay, so we're just going to get a flesh tone here. And if you need color palettes for flesh tones, there are literally millions of them if you just go to Google search. Okay, so some artists will take the time, and every time you see this little brush thing come up, I'm pushing, I think it's Alt or Control. Can't remember. I have it macroed on my I think it's yeah, I think it's Alt. But so some artists will take the time and fill in close to these lines here, and I don't do that. What I do is to ensure that I get color underneath my lines, because my lines are, I would say, semi-transparent, because I don't ink with the hard black. I ink with a transparent pencil. And so I just do this, and this makes it really easy. You use a big brush, you get all in one swoop here. You make sure that you don't leave any gaps. There is the face, and you can see how transparent my lines are. So you want to always make sure you get color underneath your lines, so it doesn't look like you use the bucket tool to fill in everything. Chris says that he uses a piece of carpet underneath his work table so that he doesn't get ink everywhere. That's pretty clever. I am not that clever. It's actually a pretty good tip. I'm going to try that. I have got tons of inks that I haven't used since like 2005. But here we go. So when you are coloring, you want to make sure that you have a palette or a template out of specific colors that you are imagining of using, because you don't want to be too much over the place where it looks unnatural. Like I want her to have a denim vest, so I'm going to do that real quick. And for those of you who are experienced with colors, some of you do layering, and we'll cover that too. I normally just color on one layer, but there's some good reasons why you should, and good other ones that why you shouldn't. So now I need the pants. Coloring the pants. The pants, I'm going to do a little wider here. Try up there. Had a lot of fun drawing this picture. I like doing dynamic poses and trying to get proportions right. People like my art, but I'm always self-critical on it, and I always try to do better every time I draw something. And I think this one turned out pretty well. So most of the time I get proportions off, and I always have my more skilled artist friends yelling at me for it, because I never really take the time. I just so anxious to see the end result. Oh, we missed some there. That's also her shirt. Alright. Right, I forgot to grab a gray. Oh, so her undershirt here is supposed to be white, but you can't really color white. So I go with a blue hue, and then I add shades and lightness to it afterwards. And you'll see that I'm crossing over my colors, and I'll show you why here in a minute. I think I have my red out for that. There we go. There's no point in my opinion, in wasting time and trying to get everything exactly to the edge of the line. You see, you just do it all in one swoop like that. Robot arm needs to be gray, so we're gonna go with a different color here. No, I might do the bandana red. I haven't established a palette for this character yet, so I'm going to be doing some experimenting with colors and back. All right, headphones, headphone wires. I actually need to change that because it's too close to the shirt. Just gonna do purple for the moment, and then we can change it once we get to that. Now, the more you know about traditional painting and coloring, the better you will be at this. There's a lot of traditional methods to coloring in Photoshop because, like I said before, there are no magic tricks to make it look awesome. They just gives you the tools you need to get the job done. Okay, and the hair is supposed to be a blonde. So all right, and that's pretty much how I start this. And actually, I need more flesh tones because she's got torn jeans. Forgot all about that. And if I get too much all over the place, just let me know. All right, so this is it. This is how it looks when I start off. I've got my colors where I want them. They're not the exact colors I need, but that's not why we do this. We do this so that we can establish where we're going with it. So, all right, first thing I do is flesh tone. So I make sure that all my flesh tone is breaking the barrier to all the colors around it. So see, now we've got full coverage of the face and then some, which is good. The arm here, we need to do that. Right here on her little music player and her fingertips. Jeans look good. All right, so then we got all our flesh. So you're gonna grab the magic wand tool, right? And then you're gonna select all the flesh tones. Will be laid down. Hold down Shift so you can multi-select here. Make sure you grab all of it, and then make sure you didn't miss anything. All right, so I would generally just work on this one layer, but since this is a tutorial, we're gonna do multiple layers. So above this base color layer, we're gonna make a new one. All right, okay, and then we're gonna go to our gradient tool, which is, if it's the paint bucket, hold down the paint bucket, and then it's on the hierarchy there. Go to your gradient. Now you want the flesh tone that you started off with to be your top color, and your bottom color, we're going to go to the eyedropper and select the flesh tone, and then we're going to go down, not into the black, but into like brown. Not too heavy of a brown though, because we're not going to do extreme shading unless it's night or she's in a cave or something, but I'll show you tricks to avoid that later when we're almost close to being done. All right, so the point of this is to fill in that layer, and at the same time we're going to give it some kind of shadowing. All right, just so we can do that a couple times to see where we're at, and that looks pretty good. So if we take away the bottom color layer where we started, you'll see that all we have is the flesh tone. And we got the gradient going, so some of it's a little bit browner than the rest, and we can work from there. All right, do not deselect it just yet. We'll work within the selection. Now, an important thing about shading is that you do not shade with black, ever. It gives it a false sense of depth. It doesn't look natural. So what we're going to do is I shade with purple. Purple, blues, depending on the scenery. If it's nighttime, I do blues. If it's out in the forest, I kind of do a dark amber oranges. You know, just those of the like. So I go down here. This is a good deep purple, okay? And it looks a little dark now, but I'll show you what I do. We're going to get a soft brush. And I haven't used these brushes yet, so it's going to take me a second to see the effects of them. But before you do that, actually, go up here to the, always have a hard time saying this word, the opacity, or opacity. Okay, opacity. There we go. Blah. I used to stutter. So, all right, so we move this down to 30%, right? And you see how that's not too harsh. It's a good shade. But let's undo that. I don't like that brush. It's a pencil, so we'll see. Yeah, it's not a good brush either. Let's just go with the standard paintbrush here. Let's see here. That's a little hard, but that will do for right now. Okay, Control Z will only undo once. Control Alt Z has the history undo, and you can set your history and your preferences. I have mine set at 20, so for every 20 keystrokes I make, it records over the last one. So make sure that if you go too far ahead, you don't make too many mistakes before you consider erasing them, or else you'll be kind of stuck with it. All right, so the light is coming down this way, right? That's where we're going to have our light source will be up here, coming down on her from that way. So she's going to have some shading underneath her bandana there. And I just put in some harsh shading. It's nothing too special. Bottom of her nose here. Maybe some along her jawline. All right. All right, it looks kind of ugly right now, but I'll show you what to do here in the progress. So we select our flesh tone again. And we're going to pick a little darker of the brown of that flesh tone. And we're just going to come up on the sides of that. And fill it in a little bit. All right, so that is basically the shadowing that we're going to have, and we're going to mix that here in a minute. But let's select that darkest shadow we got on her and do that to the rest of the flesh tone. Just identify where you want your shadowing. That's probably a little good in there. We'll have light coming up over here. And the good thing about having the Alt on Stylus is that you switch between colors pretty quick just by selecting them, and you can get your feel for, or you can get the job done pretty quick without having to go to your color wheel. So, oh yeah, I'll have to go through this real quick with you guys. So your colors here, okay? Usually it's a color wheel, but this is this bar here, okay? If you just bent that to where the red touches the red, that would be your color wheel. Now I learned this about 5-6 months ago, and I never knew about it, but it's a good thing to know. So when you are planning your colors, and let me just open up a new window here real quick. That's good. All right, so when you're doing your colors here, we have, I think people call them linear colors, where they touch each other on the color wheel. All right, so let's mock up a quick color wheel. We'll start with red. And hopefully you guys will be able to use this when you're doing your colors. All right, we got red. Hopefully I can do this right without messing it up for you guys. Or you know what? I'm just going to pull up a color wheel from the internet. Give me a sec. That's a good one. All right, let's see if I can drag this in here. Okay, look at that. That's a color wheel. For any of those that don't know what it is. All right, so let me scale this down just a little bit here. All right, so this right here, when you are putting colors together, let's say that you're like the Joker. Joker is purple and green, and it's because they're on the opposite sides of the color wheel here. Spider-Man, right? He's blue, and he's he's red and blue. That's really cool. Is that the opposite of red and blue is green for the red, and then the yellow for the blue, right? So this right here is Spider-Man. This right here is the Green Goblin. They're opposing colors, so it gives you this kind of mental, just an automatic assumption that those two are supposed to be against each other. The red and the blue are the stronger colors, so you have a better feeling for them, and the green and yellow are the weaker colors, so you automatically assume that those are, you know, the weaker person. And you see it everywhere. I mean, Superman, several other superhero characters that like Captain America with the red and the blue, and their opponents like I'm trying to think one for I'm not really hyped up on DC, so I don't know a lot about their characters. I'm a Marvel kid. You can hate me if you want. But yeah, Spider-Man's enemies, the Green Goblin, the Scorpion, you know, Lizard, all those characters, they're usually around that color palette because you know, it's the opposing color. So it's very important to know. So when you are putting colors together, like I said, the Joker, you got the purple and the green are basically across from each other. Blue and orange are across from each other. You kind of match their outfits to this strategy and this technique. So, and let's see what I'm actually going to do with this one. I haven't figured it out yet. But, all right, I got to switch this all back 30%. Get my brush back. I was using this one, I believe. Is this one a good one? Yeah, it's harsh. All right. So it's super harsh. I wonder why. Should just go to the settings and adjust all these, but you know what? I'm going to just use this one for now. That's all right. All right. still on our right layer? Yes, we are. All right, let's continue this little shenanigan. For those of you who are pro colorists out there, please forgive my mistakes. I make a lot of them. All right. Now, when you're doing flesh tones, it's always important to add in, like on white people, you have to add in the fact that they are going to have orange, blue, red in their skin. It's just the way it is. Darker people tend to have purples and blues and silvers. You want to make sure that you get that in there so when you start mixing it, it doesn't look too odd. It doesn't look too flat. Put that in there. That might be a little too much. I don't know how it's coming through on your guys' screen, but hopefully it looks all right. All right, so this is the important part here. We're gonna start blending this. What you do is you get a soft brush. If I can ever find one. I'm gonna try one of these out. Let's see how this. Yeah, that one's pretty good. You get a soft brush and make sure your transparency is down at 30%. Okay, and you're gonna start blending it. I don't like that brush now. That one's a little better. That one's got a little natural paint feel to it. Nothing like showing up unprepared for the class. Just go back to this guy. All right. So you can start blending it, and what you do is once you, like, let's do it over here on the Sprite side here. When you lay this down, okay, take your eyedropper, go out around it. You see how it's blending it out. I have to move that transparency up to 50. But all right. So you move it out. Select the outside. We just did it. Select the outside. You'll see how it gets lighter and lighter, but it merges the two colors together from when you started from. Okay. That's why it's important to have the Alt button on your stylus. I never knew about that for the longest time until someone showed me, and it just blew my mind. Okay, Chris asked if there was a blend mode that you need to select. There isn't. It's just the standard brush, okay, and the transparency is down, or the opacity is down to 50%. All right, and all you're doing is selecting the colors and kind of pushing them around. 50% might be a little too high on this brush, so I'm going to move it back down to 30, or actually 35. And you just blend it out. And usually I go with a little bit bigger brush to cover up more area. Okay, and then we just start. Like some people use, if you go up here to the mode on your tool that you're using, it will have basically the same drop-down menu as your layers do for blending or filters. Some people use screen for lightening the colors. Some people will use multiply for darkening. I've also seen that if you go over here to your burn tool, if you hold down that tool, it'll bring up dodge, burn, or sponge. Okay, they use these tools to lighten and add shadows, and I see that technique used more on like anime paintings than I do on comic book coloring. But there are those who do it. You have to experiment and get comfortable and find what you want to do. That's the best way I can put it. I'll try to change back to the tools. The flow up here, I'll show you what this does. flow makes it stop after a while. Okay, it doesn't continuously go. It's kind of like your brush running out of paint, I guess is the best way to put that. Yeah, so it's just I do it this way because I found this to be the most convenient way. It doesn't take a lot of knowing what to do in Photoshop. I'm really not liking these brushes though. CS3 I had all my brushes made, so, and in this one it's kind of backfiring on me, so. Oh, Chris asked because Coral has a lentil. Well, you know what, Chris? I have actually never used Coral before. I've used, was it Sketchpad? And that's actually pretty realistic, but I can't get it to do the same things that Photoshop can do. Corey asked, "What Photoshop am I using?" This is CS6. He says he uses an old version. As far as I knew, CC was the newest above CS6. I use mostly CS3, so I mean, they're all generally the same. CS6 has that new 3D filter on it, and I've never used it before. I don't get too technical with photo editing. I just do comic coloring and inking and things like that. So, all right. I'm going to try out the Coral, though, because I hear people talk about it. But I use Manga Studio and Photoshop in unison with each other because I can get the job done pretty quick with both of them. I use it Manga for inking, Photoshop for coloring and other effects. And okay, I'm going to adjust this brush because it is killing me right now. All right, let's see what's going on here. That's pretty cool. Corey says, thanks. No problem, man. No problem. Photoshop, as long as you're not using Photoshop 2, I think Photoshop CS4 only came out on Macintosh. But they'll all do the same thing. They will. Cool thing about Photoshop CS6 is they've got a animating option in here that I want to get into and try out. But all right, oh, that's cool. All right, just adjusting my brush here. Actually, I want to adjust the soft one. Spacing, hardness. Where's my pressure? Excuse me, guys, for 1 minute. Pressure. Let's see what's. Huh. I am an idiot. I cannot find my pressure on these things. So. You know. Just bear with me for a second. Let's see if we can find the pressure on some of these other ones. See, I've got some pretty neat brushes that would be very essential to painting. Let's try this brush. No. That one's that's all right. I don't like the angle that's at. Pencils are out of the. So like those. Those are nice. Yeah, I just chose that one. Okay, hold up. I'm going to. I should have done this before I started the video. I have there's a pre-made comic book inking brushing set that you can download for preset brushes for Photoshop. And it'll just take a second. And actually, I just posted about this on my Facebook. So if you guys want a link to it, it's in my feed, or I'll just post this real quick for you guys. I believe this one's it. All right. So if you're using Photoshop, you need some brushes. So you don't have to do the runaround like I'm doing here. You just download them free here. All right, got that installed. So to load the brushes, load brushes. Oh boy, yeah. I may have slid those in the wrong folder. All right, there we go. And they'll pop up at the very bottom. All right, there's my brushes. I love these things. Okay, so just load those, get the soft one out right there. There we go. That's the one I use all the time. It's very soft, it's round, and it won't leave such harsh marks when blending. And you can actually turn your transparency up to 50. All right. Look at that. It just blends it right in. All right. Okay, so the blending process takes the longest out of all of it. But before you start coloring, I suggest you study light, and because a bad coloring job can ruin an entire comic, and I've seen it before, especially with the cheap labor that you can buy off of Facebook. And you know, everybody's trying to get into comics these days, so everybody's doing it low budget, trying to hit it big time with their story, And you know, people have great stories, but sometimes they just find artists who can't pull it off, and it's sad to see, because you got great story and poor art, and it ruins the whole thing, because half of the comic book is essentially a visual thing. So just make sure that you get this down right, and you don't half-fast it. I think I have the wrong one. Let's see what this guy does. That's good. All right. Just gonna do this quick for you guys, so you can see, and I don't have to spend 4 or 5 hours on doing this coloring job. Most jobs, if they're, I have this image set at 400 DPI, 11 by 17, and that will take you 10 hours if it's a full comic book page. And you know, if you're making it look right, taking your time, and but it's well worth it in the end. Definitely, I get complimented more on my colors now than I do my drawings, and it makes me pretty sad, because I got into draw. But yeah. All right, so we're just blending these things around, and all right. Oh yeah, Chris asked where I just got these brushes. I just posted a link in this group here, and it says free comic ink brushes. It's got a picture of a blue package on it. You go to that site, click download, and download the brushes for you, and then go to your presets folder underneath your Adobe Photoshop CS, whatever version you have. I think it works for everything below CS5 too. So do that, put them in that folder, and then I'll show you from here. Open up your brush, or sorry, this little gear here, click on it, go to load brushes. It will bring you up to that folder. You click on that, it will load the brushes, then it loads it at the very bottom here, and you can keep loading and loading brushes, and it will just make this window get bigger and bigger with all your brushes. So yeah, that's how you do that. If you got any more questions about that, feel free to ask. Hopefully I'm being helpful. I'm not, I never know if I am, but hopefully I am. All right. No problem, Chris. I think Chris is the most attentive one here. You know, it's good. It's nice to have an audience. This is the first time I've done it. Got a better turnout than I thought I would. Yeah. this. Okay, so I've got the shading semi decent, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lighten this up real quick, and I'm going to start throwing on a very light white, and make sure you know where to put that, because that makes or breaks the face. I'm actually going to need to shadow that in a little bit more down here. Thanks, Corey. Corey says looking good. I'm not as experienced or skilled as I would like to be. I don't spend enough time doing this, which is a shame. But hopefully by the end of this year, I'll be pro and I'll be working at some major comic book company. But until now, it's indie comics. But indie comics are pretty cool to get into. You have a lot of freedom, from what I've heard, opposing the major companies. All right, so that's not as good as I would like it to be, but it's fair. It's still a little strong, but okay. So when you usually I blend it in a little bit more because it's kind of all over the place, right? But when you get it to where you want it blended, right? There's two things I always do. I get a kind of like a really low tone red, like this, right? And I do this here. I do this here. You're gonna want to put a little bit on the nose there, right? A little bit down here. Try that down a little bit. Now, the blush, you don't have to put it on. It just, to me, it looks a little bit better. Kind of makes it look a little bit more fleshy. And okay, so we do that. And hold on, I got another question, I think. Another question from Chris, my main man, Chris. Yeah, we all hope to be in the big league someday. You know, I think about it once in a while. It'd be nice to have a steady paycheck, because when you're a freelance, you're kind of jumping around ponds to get somebody to pay a good amount to do comics. And the truth is if you're an artist, you spend a majority of your time working for peanuts, you know, if you're freelance. But as far as working for the big companies, I don't think I would do it as a starting point, just to have something on my resume that says, hey, I worked at Marvel. But after doing that, I couldn't do that forever. I would totally go start my own thing as soon as getting that kind of experience. Because Marvel and DC aren't really the companies that, you know, I grew up with. They're not, I want to say they're not as creative. I mean, if you look at the 90s, the 90s was a kind of the best era for me as far as comics. I grew up with the X-Men and Spider-Man, and they're just so amazing. The stories were so well written. But nowadays, I feel like they kind of went off course to kind of like they ran out of ideas, you know, and it's kind of sad to see. But all right, so what I do after doing this blending is I get a harsher brush, right? I get one that's not too soft around the edges. And what I do is normally I shade all the flesh before doing this too, just so you guys know, is I get a very light tone, almost white, of that flesh color, right? And turn the opacity up. And then we're just going to highlight just some of the areas where the light's going to be bouncing off. And this kind of makes it pop a little bit, right? Some there, some there. Some people blend that in, but this kind of coloring, I would say, is substantially all right for sequential art if you're inside the interior of the book. Some people even do these little reflective glares on the skin to kind of make it look wet. I don't like doing that too much, but you do that with the white. You select your darkest shade there, and then you might have to even make it a little darker. You go along to where the shadows really hit heavy, and you just kind of get this illusion that all right. So this is basically what I do when I color comics. I'm going to show you something that I've seen that I used to do, and I don't do it anymore. But what I'm going to do, just for this purpose, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to duplicate this layer so I don't mess up the one underneath. I'm going to shut that one off. Okay, so what I have seen is that if you go to your, where's that tool at? Go to your magic, no, sorry, your lasso tool here. Okay, grab that, and let's select off of all this rubbish. I have seen people who they'll select the area that they want to highlight, right? So let's say you want to highlight this area here. They do that. They grab a highlight color that they're going to use, brush, right? And what they'll do is they will go through here, and this is a bad spot to show you guys, but this is what they do. So they kind of have a soft edge on one side and then a light edge on the other. You see what I'm saying here? See how it's kind of, it's really good for defining points where the light switches quick. I'll show you here. Let's just do this up on the nose. Now, I've learned all of this through practice and watching endless hours on the YouTube on how to color comics, because I've always wanted to make comics. And this is where it leads you into this crazy insanity of endless possibilities. But you see what I see, or what I mean there, is how it puts kind of like a sharp edge on there. A lot of people do that. I find that to be very time consuming. It looks more natural, but it just takes forever. Most people use the shift though to yeah, but you get what I'm saying. All right, so we're gonna keep going with this, and I'm going to shade the rest of that. We can get rid of that. All right, so now that I've kind of deselected all of that, I'm going to put on the lock here for the colors at. I guess I should probably find out where my, here we go. The lock here. This thing here won't make it so, sorry, I believe it's this one. I might have changed the icon. No, not that one. Huh? This one. One of them makes it so you can't color outside of where you've already colored. So see, I can go through here and color all that, but it won't let me go farther than the edge of where I've already laid down some stuff. I'm just going to go down here and do all of this. I don't like the way that looks. Hold on, what's going on here? Something's wrong. What is wrong? Here we go. Oh, that's why. I got the wrong brush. I totally ruined that there. Meh. I'm just gonna leave that alone before I get too obsessed with it. All right, down here. Put my lock back on there. Okay. This is not dark enough underneath the body here. So what I'm going to do is grab the purple. Generally, I should do that real quick. You put a swatch up for that. I need to have that at all times. This is the one color I use constantly, is that right there. Over and over again. Everything else you can guesstimate, but that one you need on hand 24/7. So, okay. I'm gonna move that back down. I used to color with or shape with black all the time, and my friend used to beat me up for it. Not beat me up literally, but disapproved constantly. All right, I'm gonna go along the back of the arm here. Coloring is never a quick job. If you go on YouTube and look at the videos, you'll see the time lapses where they show you like a 5-6 hour coloring job done in 30 minutes. And it's really remarkable what these guys do, but sitting and watching all of it will get pretty boring. Normally I'll sit here and render this until you cannot tell that there's any difference in the colors. And with that, you just go back and forth, just little tiny circles, and fix all your lines. It's set too high. We're finally getting a little bit of depth. I will actually come back on the back side of this arm and add a little reflective light on there. This arm is a little too dark, so I'm going to steal some of this and come back over here with it. There we go. Trick is to make it look like the light flows without there being any sharp edges. Because if you have sharp edges in there, it just looks too artificial, and it drives me nuts to have the sharp edges. See, zoom out, and it's looking pretty decent. Not quite where I want it to be there. All right, spend too much time on that. Really dark down there. All right, I'm gonna call that good before I drive myself crazy on that. And if you got like the face done, I don't have the lips or the eyes done, just so you guys know. But if you have the majority of it done to where you got your lights and your darks, just pull from that, because you don't want to get too crazy with the colors to where like the arm tones don't match with the face, and so on and so on with like the legs here, and hold on, I think I got a question. Corey says that coloring is not a strong point, and he gets impatient sometimes. Yeah, that's something you have to overcome, because I know artists who will spend hours and hours on one little tiny part, and they'll totally leave out the rest of the canvas, and they get so centered on this small little part that they want it perfect, but they're struggling on getting it right. What I do is, if I feel like I'm spending too much time on a certain area, I go to another one, right? And then your eyes get adjusted, you work on that area, and then you look at the other area that you were on prior, and you can see what you got wrong, and then make little quick fixes to it. Because if you're spending 20-30 minutes on one area that doesn't necessarily need a lot of detail, then you're wasting your time, and in my position, I'm losing money. So everything you got to, the people who pay you to do these things, they get what they pay for, right? So if you're getting paid like $60-70 a page, and you can't afford to spend 3-4 days on a page, just trying to get it perfect, you've got to learn to move on, part with your art a little bit. But yeah, it does teach you to be quick, but at the same time, what I would recommend is that you practice a lot of still life. You get outside, draw some trees, animals, people. The more that you practice on your sketchbook, the quicker you'll be able to get at Photoshop, because those two coincide. You need to practice still life in order to use Photoshop properly. It's really cool how it's built that way. But yeah, just make sure you never spend too much time. And that, see, like right here, this is gonna drive me crazy too, because the light's hitting it and I've got too many shadow points on here. It shouldn't really be shadowed at all. See, that looks good. Lost my pink, so I'm gonna grab some pink from up here. Come down here and add some. I usually put pink on cheeks, noses, knees, elbows, fingers, toes, right? And then that's really the only places you need it, because that's the contact points most of the time of your body that get rubbed up against and have a more fleshy look than anything else. So. All right, this over here needs to be bright. I'm gonna leave a shadow on that. Now, if I took my time on this picture and wanted to get it looking the way that I thought it should look, it would take me probably a day and a half. I would probably spend 12-13 hours on it, which I probably will go back and do that, because I could use this as a cover or a poster for the new comic coming out. And this is here to help you guys. And hopefully you guys are, hopefully it is helping you. I wouldn't be wanting to waste my time here. But All right, so that's good enough for interior right there, right? So what we're gonna do is what we did on the face. We're gonna pull our colors here and do a quick hard shadow where it needs to be done. This is just the style I do it in. Not a lot of people do this. It's just what I've grown to like. I've felt comfortable letting out there as something I do. We're just actually we could probably fill that in all the way because those are underneath the bone. And there's no such thing as stealing styles from people. As an artist, what you do is you take pieces from everybody that you like, and then you make your own style out of it because it's impossible to find your own style. There are those who can, but those are very far few in between. Like Todd McFarlane was one of them. The guy who did Battle Chasers, I forgot that kid's name, but he defined his own style. And if you can find your own style like that, where people can look at it and tell that it's yours, you will be set up pretty well. Not a lot of kids can do that these days. So okay, those are good. Now what am I doing there? Let's get in there. Now I use my light. And then we can move on to some clothing or the hair. See that little light edge I put on there? It's beautiful. All right, and put a little glare mark there. Makes it look a little bit more organic, fleshy. All right. Now, you look at it now and you got all this mess around the outline of it. But once you finish up your image and you go back and erase that, it looks beautiful. It really pops, and I'll show you here in a sec. Yeah, Chris has got it. Joe Matter, how do you pronounce that? Mataria? Patch can't read. Patch was homeschooled. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the guy. He's actually coming out with the Battle Chasers video game. If you go to their site, he's got a blog. He's been updating. They're doing the soundtrack right now. He's got concept art he releases here and there. If you go to his Facebook page, he'll have a link to it. But that's something he was talking about back in the 90s, and because he stopped Battle Chasers like in the middle of the series, and everybody was like, why? He went to go pursue video games, and he wanted to make Battle Chasers into the video game, but he ended up doing the Darksiders games, and I love the art style of that. It's really well-defined anime traditional art thrown together. But yeah, I can't wait for the Battle Chasers game. It's going to be an RPG. It's going to be awesome, and I'm going to waste half my life playing it. So, yeah. All right. Let me show you what. Actually, let's finish up the face here. Okay, so the face, we got to do eyes, lips, right? Important thing about the eyes: the white of the eyes is never white. All right. Never ever white. The white of the eyes carries a shadow from the top eyelid or the bottom one, just depending on your perspective. So I'll show you why it can never be white. All right, so we got it's almost a white that I put down there. It's like a brown peach color. Now I usually just pull from the shadowing and just do this quick run like that. Okay, that gives it the illusion of having a shadow, right? And then what you do is you finally get your white out, and you want to make this brush pretty small, right? Okay, and then you're going to add these little reflections in there. All right, now her eyes are blue, so let me just do this real quick. All right, and then we go back to white, and then we put in these little things. And I'll show you a trick later that will really make the eyes pop. All right, so that's the eyes. That's pretty simple, quick. You zoom out, they kind of pop away from the face. I actually need to add just a tad bit more white in here just to make it pop a little bit more. We'll go back later and add this effect that makes them look like they just got pulled out of water. But there's the eyes. All right, so the lips. Rule number one about the lips, top lip is always darker than bottom lip. So we'll start. And I don't like putting lipstick on my characters. I find it to be annoying. Realistically, I don't think superheroes wear lipstick. This character lives in a post-apocalyptic world. She would never be wearing lipstick. So we go for like a very or a light variation of the flesh, but a little bit more pinkish. What always kills me is when I see like Wonder Woman wearing lipstick. I'm like, who has time to do that? I mean, cars are blowing up outside, and you're like, hold on, guys. I got to apply at least one more coat of lipstick before I can do this. And yeah, but they're superheroes. You do whatever you want. They're superheroes. I mean, if you start bringing superheroes into reality, then they kind of lose the feel of being superheroes. So I mean, you just do what you want. It's fantasy. It's your imagination taking control. So there's no point to really make it realistic. I mean, in this comic book, she rides around the Velociraptor. That's not realistic. I wish it was realistic. I would buy like 3 of them. Okay, so on the teeth here, go with the yellow brown. Because nobody's teeth are really white. And that's too yellow. Yeah, go a little darker there. And that's my problem. Opacity was all the way up. Yeah, that might be a little too much, but it's alright. We can make this work. Now we go through there. Alright, so for the lips, what we're going to do is we're going to darken the top one just a little bit. Now the reason why the top one is darker than the bottom one for this view perspective, the same reason why the nose is darker is because it's actually got to fix that shading on the nose. But it's, you know, from where we're looking, the light's coming down. These are below the light. So when you're looking head on, the top lip is always darker because it sticks out farther than the bottom lip, and so it has a shadow to it. There's really no position that you can put the face in to make the top lip darker, or I mean lighter, other than if you were like, if she was laying down on a bed with her mouth open. But even then, you still have a shade of shadowing to do. All right, still on my. It might be a little too white. It's all right though. All right, so we're going with the white. Actually, hold on, that's my alarm. Okay, so let's do this real quick. It needs to be darker. All right. Yeah, it looks all right because this is pretty much the size you would see it at if you had it on a, comic book cover or something. All right, so I'm going to show you guys a trick right before we take this. I'm going to take a break here and get something to drink. The way that I get my coloring to look a little bit better is it all has to do with the outlining. Okay, the outlining, there are really no hard edges in real life, right? So we go to our line work here, right? We duplicate it. And this is the last step I do, but I'm just showing you guys so that we can get this out of the way. Duplicate it. Make the original, take it out of view there. Okay, so go to your little grid here, push that on, and that makes it so you cannot color anywhere but the lines, right? And you make a dark brown color on your swatch there. Okay, now check this out. Opacity is at, let's just do 60. What we do is we just run this over the lines, right? You see that? It changes the color of the lines. So they're not black. They are kind of like a yellowish brown. And this is what I was talking about with the eyes here. You do a dark blue. Blue, you're going to probably do a little darker. It's going to look too bright, and it's going to wash out the eye. But go through here, give it this little shine. Look at that. It took me forever to figure this out because nobody covered it online, and it's really popular these days to do that. So go through here, make that a little lighter. It's one of the most important things I've learned coloring is to do this. And on the lips, you want to do a dark red. You don't want to do everything that orange, or else it'll look a little off. But I mean, look at that. It just makes it a little bit more organic now, doesn't it? It's pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to take a break, and I will be back in 20 minutes if you guys want to continue watching. So I'll be back.